Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Energy Conversations. Our aim is to engage in meaningful discussion with regards to transformative ideas within the energy sector of Trinidad and Tobago. We're here to inform and connect you with the brightest and best minds in the industry. Today we have Zindzi John from Kenesjay Green Ltd. She is the Sustainability and Low Carbon Team Lead. Zindzi, can you tell us a bit about yourself and Kenesjay?
Sure. Thanks, Nisha, and it's a pleasure to be here today. So, as Nisha said, I'm Zindzi, and I am the Sustainability and Low Carbon Lead at Kenesjay Green Ltd. And you may wonder, what is that? Like, what does she do? So, basically, I'm in charge of ensuring that all of our projects at Kenesjay Green are in alignment with the state's sustainability objectives, and also that we are able to account for our carbon footprint. Yeah, it's that simple. And just a bit about Kenesjay Green. It's a project development company in the space of green project development, and it has been birthed from the parent company Kenesjay Systems, which was founded by Professor Ken Julian, who more or less was the pioneer and the father of the energy sector of Trinidad and Tobago. Locally, our first project, and you all should or may not know about this, but it's the New Gen Energy project, and it's the first large-scale hydrogen project that we aim to implement in the Point East Industrial Estate to produce hydrogen from water, not natural gas, from water. So it's a clean hydrogen production that we aim to use as a feedstock for the continuation of the downstream industries.
And regionally, do you have anything ongoing?
So yes, we have a couple projects that we are in the beginning processes of with some of our neighboring partners, such as in Dominica, where we have a framework agreement to more or less explore the development of geothermal energy and to use this geothermal energy as a source to produce more hydrogen. And this will obviously be green hydrogen because it will be coming from a 100% green energy source. And we're also looking at a couple others to more or less explore new green electrons, so such as through solar, through wind. I can't disclose right now the names of those islands, but it's all in service of finding clean energy sources to produce a clean energy product, which should be used as hydrogen.
Could you start by giving us a brief overview of what the hydrogen economy is?
Sure. So the hydrogen economy, it's, as it says, the hydrogen, how do we use hydrogen basically to boost and to build our economy? So currently in Trinidad, we use hydrogen every day. The entire Point East Estate is based off of hydrogen, except that we use this hydrogen through the natural gas. So we have a very vibrant hydrogen economy. However, as of recent, the dwindling or the declining reserves of natural gas is more or less putting a bit of a damper on our hydrogen economy. So I think in our discussions today, we can talk about how can we revive or how can we uplift our hydrogen economy, looking at different sources of hydrogen.
Great, and I'm glad that you made mention of the downstream, because my follow-up question to you would be, considering the energy landscape in Trinidad and Tobago, we've all heard it for all our lives, oil and gas, oil and gas. How exactly now can we valuably insert and transition to that hydrogen economy in Trinidad and Tobago?
Sure. I think to answer that, it's more of looking at finding new hydrogen molecules. So to find these new hydrogen resources, we can look at the various resources that can produce the energy that is needed to extract these hydrogen. There are different colors of hydrogen, which is really related to the energy source. So for example, you hear about green hydrogen, and those are hydrogen molecules that are extracted or that are generated from green energy sources, such as renewable energy. So we can have solar, we can have wind, we can have geothermal. There are different colors, such as blue, which is used mainly from carbon capture, utilization, and storage, or CCUS, which is commonly known. And then we can have the gray, which is what we currently have from fossil fuel base, such as natural gas.
I'm so glad you touched on like the different colors of green and blue and gray, because I feel like even though I have some sort of technical knowledge as it relates to that. It was a bit confusing on my end because I'm like, what's blue hydrogen? It's green, and then you see gray pop up, and you see brown. I'm like, oh my god, there's so many things happening, right?
I think the colors really is just an easy way for, let's say, people to just identify the source of direction. However, the world is really moving away from colors, and it's really looking to the more or less just the source. So let's say potential carbon footprint, or the potential amount of carbon that is within the product as a whole, rather than just separating it from source to use. Right?
That's actually very insightful. And I know Kenesjay is known for its tailored approach to sustainability, especially through their pilot project with NewGen, right? What would you say companies who are interested in doing that and forming a path to sustainability, what approaches can you say they can or should take to kind of go on that roadmap to sustainability?
Well, I can just speak from our example at Kenesjay Green. It really comes from a vision. If you visualize your company and yourself putting, let's say, a positive impact on the environment rather than a negative one, that's your starting point. So whatever business you decide to do, just decide if you're going to have a positive or negative impact. Once you decide on your roots, if you say you're going to have a positive impact, then let's say how we're going to do that. So our chairman, Philip Julian, as you all may know, he's a visionary, and he's really a visionary towards the transitioning of the energy sector. Not depleting it, not disregarding it, but transitioning it. We have I would say it's an immense gem in Point Lisas, that whole estate, and it's about preserving it and finding ways to continue having jobs, continue having businesses, continue being able to produce products for the world to use. But we are faced with challenges. We are faced with environmental challenges, we're faced with climate challenges, we're faced with feedstock challenges. And it's how can we then continue striving, let's say, for our country as an economy to bloom and to blossom, but also taking into consideration the environment, taking into consideration jobs, people, well-being, well-being of life, etc. So one is the vision. Two, it's not feeling as though you're alone. You know, there are lots of global examples. There are lots of companies who are striving to do this exact thing. So there's teamwork and partnership. There's teamwork. There's benefit in partnership. There's benefit in teamwork. I think once you have your vision and you align with companies who also want to either decarbonize or to continue their mode of operation with a lower environmental footprint, then we can decide how best can we use resources, how best can we get new resources. I think the third option really is to just do it. Yeah, just make that effort, make that commitment, and just do it. You know, we have lots of innovation in Trinidad. We have lots of brains in Trinidad, and it's really about bringing the right mix of, let's say, academia, private sector, which will always be driven by government and policy-led legislation towards making the impactful and necessary changes towards sustainable development.
So, can you tell me what are the necessary steps and potential challenges you foresee for Trinidad and Tobago in transitioning to this hydrogen economy? And can you comment on any potential policy changes or legislation that needs to be put in place?
I think that's a great question. I think we as a country, we've been comfortable with the way things work. And of course, you know, change doesn't come about easily. You know, there's always a transition period. You have to decide if you like it, if you don't like it. If you know, it requires work. I think for us, as a green energy development company, especially with a focus on the development of the new gen energy project, so more or less it's a large scale green project. We have some challenges. One of our challenges that we encounter currently is more or less the length of time to more or less get the project, let's say, approved, the approval process. I think our landscape politically has been geared around natural gas, oil-based petrochemicals. And it makes it a little tricky, especially for, let's say, clean energy projects to come along. Because we still have to go through the same, more or less, bureaucratic approvals process to get things done, where sometimes it's not necessary and it takes up a lot of time. And as you know, in the business world, time equals money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one of these suggestions would just be to have, even if it's a separate process for clean energy projects, projects that are not as harmful on the environment, so that you don't need as much time in terms of environmental testing, the length of time for testing periods. So things like those, I think, can be modified. Of course, not at all mitigating against the process of what exactly needs to be done to ensure that there's well-being within the biosphere, the ecosystems that are affected, the communities. Not neglecting those at all, but just understanding the nature of clean energy projects, that they don't have as many harmful emissions or harmful impacts, so that they may not need to be tested or taken down to the wire so detailed, because of the project is necessary, it's a positive project. So I think that's something that we would want the powers that be to just be mindful of.
Powers that be.
And to take into consideration creating a channel for the development of clean energy projects. And I think once that is done, and once ease of doing business, I would say locally, it is improved, I think we can see a lot more projects coming on board. That's going to be helpful, again, not just towards the environment, but to help Trinidad achieve its sustainable development goals, and to be in alignment and in traction towards its commitments, whether it be to the Paris Agreement or the our local climate change policy.
Definitely. And I think the greatest thing out of this entire conversation has been, for me personally, see transformation. I love it. I love how transformative this project is, and that it is pushing us as a country, as a people, to do better, to want better, to be better. So
but
great
I mean,
stuff.
it's not easy. I mean, and I think with change, nothing comes easy.
Nothing.
And sometimes, change can be apprehensive because you're not sure of the outcome. But again, we have a lot of global examples to look at and to look up to in terms of those outcomes. And I think, there's always a teaching process when you do something the first time. So, we at New Gen, we put on our jackets and our hard hats, and we're going to go through this process. One, to make sure that this project is a success, and to also help those who are going to come after us, because we know we need people to come after us for clean projects. To make their process and to make their projects happen a little faster and a little easier.
And I think, as with everything, trial and error. Yeah?
Of course.
We see what's working, we continue it. If something needs to be changed, we change and we press forward.
Yeah, it's not even a matter of if. Right now, it's a matter of when.
And I'm glad the last point was just do it, because I think something we need to pay attention to in Trinidad and Tobago, it's not an option for us anymore. Climate change is real. Every day we're sitting in our desks and we're like, oh my God, it's so hot, right? And we are a lot different from the rest of the Caribbean and the rest of the world, because on one hand, we're a producer, but on the other hand, we're also a small island developing state, which is being immensely affected by climate change. So I think we should, just do it, because it's not optional anymore. So I'm glad we took the journey of starting at a country level, where we talked about the economy. Then we got down to a corporate level, where we talked about companies and how they can align. And I think now the question I want to ask you is at a public level. Now, with every emerging sector or transitioning sector, we always tend to ask the question, how are jobs being generated, and what are the jobs that the public can look forward to? One, and the second part of that question is, how can the youth get involved? Because, a lot of youth, like, we're in October, that's graduation season in Trinidad, right? And now a lot of youth are like, okay, where am I going to go? Where am I going to align myself? Where am I going to find a career, right? So with respect to jobs, what can we expect in that facet?
So the first part of my question, in terms of what can we do? I think really and truly the job opportunities that are to be created from this transitioning or this low carbon or decarbonizing sector, it is substantial. It is one that is going to allow, I would say, a new subset. It's not going to be difficult because, I mean, we have a lot of knowledge and opportunities for knowledge in the petrochemical sector. I think it's just shifting a couple bits in terms of the sources or the uses of the sources to generate the byproduct or the downstream sector options. So the jobs are going to be high. We're going to still have upstream, we're going to still have downstream, still going to have manufacturing. And I think what's going to be added as well is going to be now looking at, let's say, the life cycle of products. So I think that's going to be, there are going to be new sectors created where we're going to look at now calculating the carbon footprint of products, putting a stamp of, let's say, greenness, as you would want to call it, onto products and truly understanding and making aware through public awareness, which is another opportunity, as to the impact of our product. And I think that's how we're going to get people involved. When people start asking questions, what's the impact of this bottle of water? What's the impact of your coffee? What's the impact of, the car you're driving? We see a lot of trends, of course, generated globally, as to how can I make a difference? What can I do? And a lot of people, they feel overwhelmed because sometimes they don't think that they can make a difference. But the truth is we can. We can. Everything that we do, even if it may be a small drop, it's still going to create a ripple. And if I do a small drop and then I influence my family, whether it be recycling, upcycling, reuse, it's going to make an impact. Because I think we are, as you said, the heat, the extreme weather climate, weather patterns, the extreme climate changes, it's affecting us. And unfortunately, we had to wait until it affected us to actually realize, oh, we need to do something now. The second part of the question in terms of, is it the types of jobs?
No, so we spoke about the jobs before, but like the youth in particular, because I feel like I feel like us millennials, we were
how can we get involved?
Agents. We were the agents for change, right, as millennials. But I feel like Gen Z is like, they're about it. Like, they're like, we don't believe in that packaging, so you all need to be sustainable, and we don't like this job, and like they are really about it. And I think they are good. We were the agents, but I think they're going to be the drivers of this change.
Definitely.
So how they can get involved in that?
I think because I think we, as I said, we created the information. We were still putting together information packages. I think, as you said, the Gen Z, they have absorbed the information, and they are willing and they are able-bodied to, as you said, make the changes. I think for the youth involvement, I think I'm seeing a lot of youth involvement, a lot of participation, a lot of public awareness, using all of the social media networks to have their voice be heard, coming from an informed point of view. I think getting involved, even if it's through volunteerism at this very beginning, get familiar, get associated, get aligned with companies that you believe in their vision. Companies that you see, or that you get that really good sense of what they're doing and where they're about to go. And it aligns with your personal career goals, even though it may not be, let's say, a very high paying job at first. I think experience goes a long way. Getting experience, getting mentors, getting familiar with industry agents. Even if it's just through weekly check-ins, tagging along, just getting, I would say, aligned with the companies or the businesses that you want to be part of, and then working your way up to job opportunities. And then once you get the opportunities, it's really just, again, keeping your personal alignment in line with the business alignment, so that you always show up motivated, you always show up with a purpose, a passion. And if your passion is about environmental awareness, climate change, being that change agent, then you're good to go.
That's great. I think that's great advice for that generation upcoming. Don't be daunted by, because when we were up and coming, we thought there was a box that we needed to fit in, and it was up to us to push the boundaries a little bit, but they just blew up the whole box. So that's really good for them.
Some of them not even waiting for box to create a circle.
Exactly. Which I think is really, really great. So we've seen the progression of how the conversation is geared towards sustainability from a starting point of hydrogen.
Yeah.
So I think that now, since we started with hydrogen, it's appropriate that we end with hydrogen, right? So I know recently there was a hydrogen symposium, and I was wondering if you're able to share a few key takeaways from that and what we can expect to happen as it relates to that moving forward.
Of course, thanks again, Nisha. So as a member of the Kenesjay Green organization, and also one of the committee members to put on this first hydrogen symposium, we are just overwhelmed with joy, overwhelmed with the amount of support. I must big up our platinum sponsors, Republic Bank Limited and Yara, just for taking the initiative and the vision and believing that it was a need, and put in, I would say, commitment, their financial commitment towards the outcomes. So the symposium was really geared at merging academia, industry, and a cause. And the cause is about Trinidad and Tobago, basically. Where are we going next? You know, what can we do as young people, persons in the academic field, and what are we doing that can be aligned to where we need to go? So we really focused on highlighting or spotlighting the research areas of the students of UE and UTT, especially in the field of hydrogen, low carbon development, and also renewable energies. And having now the audience, not the drivers, the audience will be the private sector. So they are now listening to the students, listening to what they think is important to study. And then now having a conversation between academia and private sector to say, wow, okay, I can see what we can do as industry, or I can see what is needed in academia to be able to help that transition. So yes, it was a little tech heavy in terms of the presentations, which are still available if you go online on our website, www.h2rctt.com. You can see highlight videos. We have a YouTube page as well, because we really want to keep the momentum and to keep the message alive. We really wanted to also hear from government through the National Energy. What is our roadmap? What is our hydrogen roadmap? And how does that tie back into our climate change policy, our sustainable development roadmap? And all that lies within the Ministry of Planning. So it's really about creating awareness about the where we're going, the vision, and then opening it up to now, as I said, the younger population, the students, also with the mature generation, which will be the industry and the private sector drivers, to now really, I would say, develop the momentum towards achieving that goal. So we had full house, 350 persons. We were oversubscribed, and thankfully we had a live stream, so persons who were unable to make it in person, they were able to follow along for the day. We had a packed agenda, which caused a little overruns in time, but we know that there's a need, and it was so impactful that we still had persons staying even though we ran over time. So we thank all of our participants. Again, we thank all of our sponsors, and we really were happy with the feedback. The feedback, especially because it's something that hasn't been done, you know, really spotlighting, as I said, the messages and the, I would say, the home, you know, and then now creating avenues for even more dialogues between what is needed and how do we get there. So we hoping that it's going to be one of those things that we can have on the annual calendar. And it will encourage more students and more younger persons to begin researching or begin wanting to be involved in the research area. If that's your thing, if academics is your thing, to really focus on finding solutions to that. So even if you don't know what can I do, but you're a good scientist, help us find solutions, right? And once we find the solutions, the industry and help backed by the financial partners can help make those solutions a reality. Yeah, so that was our symposium again. It was just, I can't even pause or reason thinking about it, because we were just so really happy and proud of everyone coming together just from a vision. And the research collaborative is really about well, Kenesjay Green started it, and our first partners are the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine, and UTT, University of Trinidad and Tobago. And it's really to show that commitment between in the private sector and academia to continue the messaging of finding these solutions.
I'm really happy to hear that this was such a success because I feel like it was needed. It was needed because we've been hearing, murmurs and whispers of hydrogen. We've heard it at the energy conference. And I know Kenesjay in particular has been championing that cause. And I'm so glad that our conversation that started out with, okay, what's hydrogen? How is it going to tie into our local energy sector, our economy? Has now morphed into climate change, sustainable development, like job generation, all these things. And it just shows us just how much everything isn't segmented, but it's related in some sort of way. And you mentioned your pause raised there just now, but throughout this entire conversation with you, I felt like my pause were raised because hearing young people passionate about a cause, and not only a cause, but a cause that is so directly beneficial to Trinidad and Tobago. It's amazing to me, and I really appreciate you having you here with us. It was such an insightful conversation, and I really hope we could collaborate on some more projects moving forward.
I think and I know we're wrapping up, but I think we have to also remember that Trinidad is not one by itself. We are connected to a Caribbean diaspora, and we're also part of our global environment. And I know the symposium, again, just going back a little bit, it really could not have been a success without hearing from international best practices, success stories, and give us that motivation as to, what can be done, what we should be doing, and who are the persons we can collaborate with. Again, when we keep looking for new resources and new energy resources, especially in the low carbon or the carbon, in the low carbon field, we have to look outside. We have to look at our Caribbean partners, our Caribbean neighbors, because Trinidad, we're just a certain amount in terms of our size. There's so much we can do. But when we look at the Caribbean as one, I would say we have unlimited potential, whether it be from geothermal, whether it be from solar, whether it be from hydro. So it's just about finding ways to harness all of those energy sources and then use it for the benefits of all of the countries, especially in the sense.
Definitely. So once again, Zindzi, thank you so much for being here today.
For having me here. It's been a pleasure.